Quinn, a member of the California Arts Council and Beverly Hills Arts Commission, is the former West Coast editor of Andy Warhol's Interview magazine and society editor of the Herald Examiner. Her cover stories can be read in Venice and Detour magazines, and she is a contributing editor to California Apparel News. For the next half hour, Joan will bring you inside news and views on society, art, film, and the exhilarating worlds of these multifaceted people. Here is Joan Quinn.
Hello, I'm Joan Quinn. Welcome to Joan Quinn, Etc. We're happy to see you out there today. Our guests are pastry chef Maria Weissauer and fashion designer Renato Balestra. I took a 10-day trip to Australia recently with my daughter Jennifer, and after stops in Sydney and Brisbane, we spent a few days on the Gold Coast at the Sheraton Mirage Resort. One day, like you do in so many of those hotels, we took a back-of-the-house tour with the hotel manager, Mr. Hodder. And when we came out of the kitchen into a small foyer, there was a sculpture made of chocolate. It was sitting on a pedestal with a first prize ribbon on it. And it was made by their pastry chef, Maria Weissauer. She has so many chores as a pastry chef of a big hotel that we thought it would be really fun and interesting to hear about them. We'll go by tape to Australia. We're at the Sheraton Mirage Gold Coast in Queensland, Australia, with head pastry chef Maria Weissauer. Is that right, Maria?
That's right, Weissauer.
Say it the right way for me.
Weissauer.
Where are you from?
I'm from Austria, from Salzburg.
Did you go to school there?
Yes, I did.
Did you just go to train to be a pastry chef?
I was trained as a chef and a pastry chef, but pastry is my favorite, so I took a master's degree in pastry also in Austria, and I did a lot of practice and experiencing in Switzerland and France and in South Africa. I worked on a ship for 2 years all around the world, and in America for about 1 year.
Do you work with the chef to decide what kind of desserts you're going to make?
Yes, we always work together to create new menus, and then I have to try out the ingredients, and we see how it looks and tastes.
Maria won the gold medal for the Gold Coast in Brisbane from the Chefs Association, and we have the actual piece that you created. It's in front. Tell us about that.
Well, there's a cocoa painting at the background of Salzburg, the city where Mozart was born, and in front is Mozart himself and his wife, just relaxed having a cup of coffee. Because in Austria this year is Mozart year. It's
200th
200
anniversary,
years, that's
yes.
right, yeah.
What kind of entries were in this contest?
There's a lot of different sections, all edible showpieces. Some are made from sweet ingredients like sugar, chocolate, marzipan, like this one was, and there's other ones made from butter sculptures, ice carvings, salt dough. And
all different categories?
All different categories.
Have you, can you make things in different categories
Oh
too?
yes, there's for pastry alone there's already 4 or 5. Like there's wedding cakes, there's petit fours, chocolates with a display. There's a la carte desserts, which is very interesting.
All of the different,
yes.
Does that happen in every country where pastry is being judged?
Yes, yes, more or less, yeah. But some countries are stronger than others, and some like Germany or Singapore, they have an international every 2 years or every 4 years, and other countries have a local or just a national one every year, once a year.
How long have you been in Australia?
About 4 years.
Oh, you have? Do you feel comfortable about baking in Queensland?
Oh yes, there's a lot of interesting ingredients, tropical fruits, for instance, and macadamia nuts they have. And,
what does Queensland mean to you? What would you, how would you describe Queensland?
I think for guests it's a very nice place to relax. Nice place with a beautiful beach and a nice hinterland as well. So it's a lot of things people can do on the holidays. So we also try to cook different and interesting things for them.
What is the hinterland?
That's...
How do you describe it?
It's sort of a bit hilly, small mountains and a lot of like, rainforests. There are parks, waterfalls. And it's just about half an hour's drive away, and it's completely different from the tropical beach side. It's very nice. There's a lot of little cafes and art galleries with potteries and homemade cakes and things like pumpkin scones and lemingtons, which is Australian.
Leamington, tell us about that, because I know that's something that's really specific to...
Yes, it is.
It's Lamington, Lamington.
That's right, yeah. And it's actually very simple. It's just made out of a nice moist sponge. Little cubes can be cut and filled with marmalade or jam. And then we have to prepare a syrup from chocolate, sugar and butter. There's different secret recipes, and we dip these cubes in that chocolate sort of fudge sauce and then roll them in coconut, desiccated coconut.
We heard today that Lamington came to Australia and he had to find a way to preserve the cake because they didn't have a way of keeping it fresh. So therefore he rolled it in chocolate sauce and put...
That's right.
Do you think that's a true story?
Yes. And the coconut to give it that tropical taste and a nice finish. Yeah.
You do all the baking for this huge hotel resort. And you start in the morning because the buffet was filled with all kinds of breads and muffins and rolls. What kind of, do you change that every day, or what kind of menu is?
Certain things we have on a standard menu, like the menus we change every few months, so they will be the same for a few months. And other things like the buffets, we change all the time. Buffets, ice creams. And so.
What was on, I know I saw raisin muffins and blueberry muffins. What things on that buffet came right from Queensland?
There's some Danish fillings with, let's say, mango fillings, and the macadamia ones, and pumpkin scones, typical Queensland.
Have a lot of pumpkins here?
Yes, they're very good for pumpkin pie, pumpkin scones, and...
Sounds very American.
Yeah, but there's a different pumpkin, actually, special pumpkin here for Queensland, yeah.
Tell us about this. It looks like a piece of silk that you've spread on top of this creation.
That's marzipan.
Oh, it's not silk?
No, it's not. It's all edible. It's marzipan.
And what's underneath it?
Underneath is a Gromagnon cream on a chocolate macadamia nut base, and in the cream there are assorted dried fruits, all Queensland dried fruits, like again mangoes and peaches, apricots, sultanas, raisins.
What do you do in your spare time?
I like swimming, of course, and painting. I like artwork, painting and pottery.
Do you paint yourself?
Yes, I do. Watercolors and oil and drawings, the scenery outside or just tropical fruits, whatever.
Have you ever worked in just a single bakery where you've had to be the proprietor of a bakery?
No, I prefer hotels. It gives you much more variety to make, like you can make showpieces and nice buffets. I think shops are a bit limited. They seem to have the same selection more or less all the time, except for the seasonal fruits and things. But hotels is much more versatile, much more interesting with a fine dining restaurant. Like here we have an Asian restaurant, and the buffet is unlimited.
Do you actually prepare pastries for the Asian buffet as well?
Oh yes, we do. Yes.
Is there an influence of the Pacific Rim? Or
Yes,
I guess it's not the Pacific Rim. I guess it's just the Asian influence.
At the moment, the trend is East meets West, so we have dishes that are actually European or Western or even Australian, and we put Asian ingredients, and there's Asian desserts and dishes which have Western ingredients, so that makes a nice combination now, a new way of mixing both of them, and it's very interesting.
Maybe that'll come to California soon. Maybe you can come to California and introduce that. We really want to thank you very much, Maria, our chief pastry chef, and thanks for sharing some of your ideas with us.
You're welcome.
We'll leave you right now. We couldn't eat the chocolate cello or break off Mozart's head, but Maria made some chocolate kangaroos for us to bring back to America. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, we'll talk to designer Renato Balestra, and he designed these beautiful gowns that are on the set with us today. So don't go away, we'll be right back. We're back, and we're with designer Renato Balestra. He was born in Trieste and had planned to follow the architecture and engineering traditions of his family. But through a dare, while still in engineering school, his career shifted. Renato made a personal appearance at Saks Fifth Avenue in Beverly Hills recently. You wouldn't be here, Renato, if you had continued your engineering. What happened?
It just happened that I wanted to do something artistic, something creative. And all my life, when I was in my younger ages, I was studying piano, I was studying opera, I was studying painting, I was studying everything which has to do with a creation, with a art. And but my father was an engineer, my uncle was an engineer, so they pushed me into engineering, which was very, very difficult for me. The first 3 years, that is more theory in the engineering, was all right. But then when we went into machineries, was a drama. And so anyway, I started to make them happy until the last year. And then I just had the chance to switch from engineering to a strange world of fashion. Fashion didn't appeal to me until then. I didn't know anything about fashion. I didn't know anything, the difference between, I don't know, a satin or a crepe, or it was a mysterious world for me. But just happened that I was, by challenge, forced to design 2 dresses. I was in the university still, and a friend of mine looked for a gown. She was, I don't know, I was feeling very tender to her, very, very attached to this girl. And so she said to me, it is not possible that you don't want to do it to me. For me to design the gowns. And I said, it's not a matter I don't want, it's a matter I don't know how to do. But they said, but you know, you always design, you always like art, why don't you try? So I said no. But when I went home, I started to think about, and I said, why I have to discontent her? So I designed 2 dresses. The 2 dresses was brought to a tailor, to an almost unknown tailor. But this tailor said, where did you buy these 2 dresses? Who is the designer who did it? And she said, no, it's just a friend of mine, my boyfriend. So, unknown of us, she sent the sketches to Milano to a high fashion house. And this house invited me for an interview.
Is that right?
Yeah, I went there, and they offered me to collaborate to the high fashion collection. So I always say that it's not that I chosen fashion, but fashion chosen me.
Fashion really did choose you. Did you have a hand for drawing? Did you know how to draw the clothes at that point?
No, I was able to sketch, I was able to paint, I was able to draw. This, yes, of course, but I never a dress. So from that time, I took the challenge and I said, okay, for 6 months I will try to be in this mysterious world because it was intriguing me, because it was a challenging occasion. So I did it. I went there. The first few months I just stolen with my eyes and with my the secret of fashion. Then the collection came out, was very successful, and I said, why not to try longer? So I designed for the movies, I designed for theater, I designed for fashion, until, for 2 years as freelance designer, until I opened my own high fashion house.
So you opened your own house right away?
Right away, after 2 years. It's a long time.
No, 2 years is not.
Time.
Was it a fashion designer that you assisted that we would know, that we would have heard of?
Maybe, I don't know, there were many, the most famous designer houses, because it's a freelance designer. I started with one called Veneziani. She was very, very famous at that time.
Yeah. Veneziani?
Yeah, and then I designed for all of them, Fontana Sisters, Schubert, this and that, all the most famous high fashion houses of this period.
So did you learn something at each place?
Oh yeah, for each one also, because I had to adapt at the time my taste to their taste, you know, because each one had a different personality. So I think it was a right school, but nobody teach me how to do. I just had to steal from them the secret of the business.
So you never went to fashion school?
I never went to a fashion school, and now that I am a little known in
Well
my country.
known, yes.
Yeah, people are young students are coming to me from the schools, from the Academy of Fashion. They say to me, what can we do? I say, I cannot teach you because I was not never to a school. But anyway, what I can tell you is just to try to practice and to be creative and to be patient also, because we cannot improve suddenly. You know, today young people, they want to go right to the top immediately, and they have to be patient. They have to put a lot of dedication, devotion, and patience to what they do in order to achieve a certain standard.
Can you cut a pattern?
I can also. I have to do everything because.
Can you sew?
I can also. Sometimes I sew one at the bottom of my jacket when I'm traveling too much. Yeah.
Do you need?
But that's the only thing I can do.
You were at Saks recently making a personal appearance. What does a designer do when he makes a personal appearance?
You know, first of all, we have a show. We have a special event or a show in the store. They invited the best customer of the store.
And they invited the costume council, I know, from the county museum.
And then people start to come, and you just do a personal appearance. You try to give them suggestions and.
Do they try on your clothes?
Yeah,
or
they
do
try.
You suggest?
Yeah. Which is quite a nice part of my work. Yeah.
How does the show work? Is it different in each city you go to?
No, because I try to bring my own show in the different cities. I have my music, I have my accessories, I have my, how can I say, my sequence. Mm-hmm. And so I try to bring the show that I had in Europe when I'm traveling abroad. So the whole production, I mean, has the same atmosphere.
The music was very dramatic, and of course the gowns are very dramatic.
I choose my music, you know.
Of course.
I choose all my music.
I was going to ask you, since you studied music, and obviously you have a love for the opera and for the romantic, because the music was very romantic.
Yeah.
And you use a lot of tulle and large skirts.
I think women are romantic, so why not to propose a romantic musical dresses?
Did you ever study opera?
Yeah, I studied because I love opera very much, and I have many friends among the opera singers, you know, Aprile Millo, Mirella Freni, all these.
Do you dress them?
Joan Anderson, I don't know, all these stars are my friends. And I go constantly to the opera, yeah.
Where do you go? You live in Rome,
in New York, in La Scala, in Metropolitan, wherever a good production is, yeah.
Have you done just an opera set?
No, I did for theater. I did, for example, a theater piece for Zeffirelli, with Zeffirelli, Franco Zeffirelli. I did for others. I have an offer to do a production next season. So let's hope for an opera. Yeah, so let's hope we can do it. Actually, I had few offers, but for operas or for ballet, which were not appealing me too much. You know, if you do, especially in another field than yours, you have to feel and you have to be with the atmosphere of the opera.
What would keep you away? I mean, would it be the opera that you were offered, or the musicians, or the plays?
No, it was a type of opera, because you know, a Ballet La Scala offered me last season for a production of very contemporary ballet.
I see.
But it's not that I don't like the contemporary, I like it very much, but maybe this type of ballet was not, was an American ballet, by the way, but the type of production was not appealing to me. So let's see, I hope I find one that I like very much.
I see, so it would really be your connection with the whole...
There is an opera, for example, not very well known, that I would like very much to produce, which is Pearl Fisher. I think this is the name. From Bizet. It's a it's almost a fairy tale, and it's a very difficult opera to sing. That's why maybe it's not so much produced.
But do you see yourself working in more fantasy? Like you say, this is more of a fairy tale.
You know, you can place fantasy in everything. Also, the most normal and most daytime production can have a moment of fantasy. You can create the ambience, you can create the set, you can create through the dresses, through the colors, you can create a certain atmosphere.
When you start a collection, do you do a collection every year, or 2 or 3, or what? How many
Look, this is a
collections?
very. I have 30 lines. In 30 lines, that means a 60 collection a year. And
2 a line, 2 collections for each line.
2 collections
right?
for each line, because the spring and summer, one, and the fall and winter, another one. So each collection for 30 lines has 2
Yes.
collection a year.
Yes.
So there are 60 collections.
But from what kind of lines? From
You know, I have different lines for women. I have high fashion, ready to wear, and another ready to wear, lower price. I have for young girls, and all the accessory, perfume, and blouses, and skirt, and this and that. So there are many lines. Then I have for men about 8 lines.
Oh,
I
you
have
do?
ties, I have jackets, I have trousers, I have suits. Then I have also perfume for men. And then I have interior decorations. Then I have glasses, sunglasses.
Housewares,
And
interior?
also, yeah, I have tiles, I have floors.
Fabric?
Yeah, I have fabrics, I have porcelain, I have bath ceramics. And
Well, you're very busy.
yeah, I am quite busy, yes. Yes, yes.
Are they all under the Balestra name?
All under the Balestra name, yes.
When you start, I was going to say, what gives you your inspiration, but where do we start? Where, say
You
we're
know,
doing a...
inspiration, everybody asks me, where do you have the inspiration from? But, you know, inspiration comes from, it's very difficult to answer, because inspiration comes from an emotion, I think. So an emotion comes from everything, comes from a traveling, comes from a music, from a painting, from a color you can see, from some architecture, from a love. It's very important. Yeah, everything can give you an emotion. And when you are under emotion, then you are creative.
So it just has to come. It just
It has to
comes.
come. You
start.
cannot just sit down and say, I want to have an inspiration. You know?
I know.
Inspiration comes,
It's like
comes
looking
suddenly.
at
Looking at the
Clifford's
flower, for
flowers.
example. Talking with you, I can have an inspiration.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Do you design fabrics as well for your
I
clothes?
design, I never use a fabric designed from somebody else. I always design my own fabrics. I design every season, sounds scary, but 138 fabrics.
You
So
do?
250 and I don't know how many, or 70 a year. Yeah.
So the flowers could be, because
It can-
yesterday you had some
Yeah, a lot of
dresses
flowers.
that were
Yeah, a lot of
flowers.
flowers. Yeah.
They were
Then they
beautiful.
are signed on the border and they are sold by yard when the collection is finished. Yeah.
Oh, they are.
So
Oh, they
distributed,
are.
yeah.
Yesterday, when we were watching the show, I heard many of the women say, "It's so Italian. There's nothing more you can say about this show except it's Italian." And the daytime dresses are so ladylike. What
I
do
never
you
designed a fabric of spaghetti. Eh?
Is that no?
Flowers a lot.
No spaghetti?
No spaghetti until now.
What do you think the Italian means? What is that they're talking
It's
about?
very difficult. This has to do with the culture, with the place you are born, with what you assimilated through the years, the atmosphere of the country.
It's just you.
It's just, in fact, if you are creative, you always express something of yourself or your personality in what you do. And I find that a collection is successful when the personality of the designer is expressed.
This beautiful gown behind us it goes from a very pale lavender up to a very strong purple. And do you have a name for
No, it's a chiffon, and we had to dye the chiffon, this type of chiffon, in the colors in the shades of this color, because you cannot find so many shades in ready.
Yes.
So we had to dye on purpose. Yeah.
I'm going to go, when you talked about spaghetti, every time I speak to someone who lives in Rome or anywhere in Italy, I want to know what their favorite kind of spaghetti is, or if they can make it.
You know, among my many activities, I like also to cook sometimes. I have a country house. I never have time in my own in Rome to do it, but when I'm in my country house, and I like to cook. In fact, I also deliver some recipes to some, how do you say, cook magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
What's your favorite spaghetti? What's the easiest spaghetti for us to know? Or pasta.
Let's say it's pasta. I like very much the normal tomato pasta, but I cook it in a special way because I don't use any oil, any fat, any grease. I just do it very light, and everybody likes it, so I hope it is good. But I think it's my favorite because it's very light and has not grease at all inside.
That's it? Just tomatoes?
No. I have a little secret. You have to place a lot of herbs. You have to place different quality of spice. Of course, you come to my house next time and I cook for you.
That's we have to wait for that. Before we leave, I know you are a television star in Italy. Besides all of the designing and the cooking and the traveling that you do.
My writing, my everything.
Your book, yes.
You know,
we have the book.
Yes, I have a program. I just finished, by the way, a Saturday night at 10 o'clock. And for about 2 seasons, I spoke about colors. So every season, every week, I had a different color, like blue. Why blue? Who was wearing blue in the antique time? Why, I don't know, blue is a color of can be the color of the happiness, but can be the color of being blue, you know. All gossips and everything come into my mind about a certain color.
Are you on alone? All by yourself?
Yeah.
And what a wonderful idea.
Yeah, it was a little difficult because you're talking with somebody else, you know. Being interviewed is quite easy, but to be alone, talk in the camera, you know, look at the camera for 20 minutes or a quarter of an hour and be completely alone is a little difficult. So I started very shy, and then after 2-3 weeks, I was feeling a little more comfortable.
Well, we have to go, but before we leave, can you very quickly, in just a few seconds, tell us what you love about Los Angeles?
Oh, first of all, I like the weather. I like very much warm weather. And I like my friends. I have many friends in Los Angeles. Come quite often just to visit and just to be here. I like to go to the ocean, or Venice, Laguna Beach, I don't know, everywhere. Yeah, you have wonderful trattorias up on the hill. It's great, and so I like Los Angeles.
Thanks for being with us. We want to thank designer extraordinaire Renato Balestra for being with us, and please come back again.
Thank you very much. I hope I will improve my English for that time.
We'll see you next time on Joan Quinn, etc.